we all ready? I think it's just about that time. Indeed, 35 Swifties, it may cause seizures.
Peace to all the real DJs out there.
Famo, are you ready for tonight? Because we've got stories to listen to and things to dig up. Get out those DC history books because we're about to tap into a man who's got stories for days, not only about himself, but other DJs as well. But we'll see if we actually get into that. Because, it's never nice to talk about other DJs. But I digress. Now, here's the gig. Matt Rogers has been on my bucket list for a hot second. Going back through all my notes, when I've asked people who would they want to see on the show, and as I've asked other friends who they want to see on the show, his name has continually come up. A member of Catalyst, one of those people that you always saw on a flyer, especially in the aughts. And I want to know more about his story, how he got there, his rise and claim to fame, all the good things about him. So let's, without any further ado, get right into it because I need to learn these things. So let's go talk to the one like Matt Rogers and Hey guys, Future Ocean here. And we are talking 2025, where this was recorded early pandemic. I think it was 2002. So this particular interview sat in the can for quite a long time. The reason being is because we had some audio issues. I was young as an interviewer and didn't stop Matt soon enough to tell him that his mic was off. I didn't know how bad it was until I really got into the playback. The other is that I had two audio sources on my audio, and so I sound like I'm echoing a bit, which is annoying but tolerable. Again, I was early. I think this was my second interview I ever did, and admittedly, I was a little nervous. I'm sitting here talking to Matt Rogers, man, like Catalyst. But anyway, if you find that you can't handle the audio, skip ahead to around 14 odd minutes. I'll put the link in the description. I want to thank Matt for doing this interview, and I want to offer maybe a redemption, and maybe we do it with the other partner of Catalyst. I'm just saying. The other is that he wanted me to let you all know that next time, if you want to see him, he's playing on July 3rd for Andy Tuff's memorial. During the interview, you'll hear him talk to and kind of comment on Andy's commentary in the chat as he was there that night. As Andy was really monumentally helpful with linking me up with people within the scene. The other is that he's currently, Matt Rogers is currently working with Bagman Larry Hammer on an upcoming project. So keep it locked for that information. Besides that, I think that's it. Please give us a little grace. Again, this was early on. It was my second interview of me trying to reboot the series. There's another one in the can. That one's being edited, I hope, soon. And if it gets approved, it'll probably come out after the next interview, which is going to come before July 3rd, which is actually with DJ Slant and Peter Too Tough. So, a little bit of foreshadowing there. Anyway, let's get right back into this interview. Enjoy, and as always, leave comments in the doodly-doo, leave memories in the doodly-doo, and if there's anyone that you want to see be a part of this series, let me know. And I promise that I'll do better with the audio. Anyway, I'll catch you on the flip. Bye. Let me unmute him and bring him in. How are you doing, sir?
I'm well. Thank you for such a glowing introduction. The check is in the mail. It should be there in the next 24 to 48 hours.
I like how that works. Yeah, thanks. It's how we keep this thing moving along, right? So, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, how
All
did you
right.
get started in this whole drum and bass musical journey? Wherever you want to
Sure.
start.
My foray into music really started around the age of about 5 years old, when I really took to playing drums. And that's pretty much my high school, middle school story is what did you do when you got off school? I went home. I played drums for 4 to 6 hours. It was my life. I absolutely lived it. I breathed it. It was just completely my essence. And not to toot my own horn, but I have to say I was a pretty darn good drummer because I put a lot of time into it. And music has always been my number one focus, period. Um, and in 90, I guess 94 ish, I went to my first rave. It was Spiritual Movement 2 by Modern Music. And there was like Wink, Moby, Dimitri from Delight, a bunch of heavy hitters. All, yeah, really, seriously. And I went in and I got immersed in the culture really quickly. I wasn't, to be honest with you, I wasn't the biggest fan of techno or house because I was used to playing drums and hearing polyrhythmic stuff, and the constant four to the floor was just a little monotonous for me. But I really liked the culture that of people getting together, getting into this, some people into a chemically induced state, and everyone bonding and coming together. I was a big deadhead, and I saw the same kind of community with the raves, and I said, "Wow, this is really interesting." And then fast forward to about maybe a year later, and there was a party that Ultra World threw. Again, Delight was there. It was called the Emerald Forest. It was a Catoctin state park.
Wow.
Yeah, beautiful place. And I was walking towards the chill out room, and I just heard in the background while walking by the second area, I hear this. I'm like, whoa, what's this polyrhythmic stuff here? And I didn't know that. I was listening to my first Amen break, and um, the second I heard it, I was like, this is it. This is the future of music, and I want to dedicate my life and my lifeblood to this music. And from my first Amen, I was just hooked. And then from that point, I went from being kind of passe into the culture and just more into it for the social aspect, to a person who was now going because they're addicted to that music and they need to hear it, and they need to hear it on a proper loud system. And when I first heard Jungle, which is what it was back in those days, um, just immediately hooked me. Um, and then I started, DJing very poorly for a few years, and then started jocking the Two Tough Guys, and they were nice enough to let me open up a few of their events, and the ball really just started rolling from there.
Actually, I heard that there was a question about whether or not we had an echo in the chat. Do we still have an echo in the chat? Yay, nay? Nope. And my mic is out. My mic is back. This is why we do all the technical things now. All right. I think we're back. We're back and we're good.
Testing.
Yeah. Testing 1, 2, 3. Excellent. Cool. Thank you, Tom, for giving me the early crew every time.
Easy, Tom.
Yeah. But now we got Stress. We got Too Tough in the crew. Andy Too Tough in the crew as well.
My boys.
So, the fact that you were able to open for them, that means you already had some promise, to say the least. I mean, they were not the easiest crew to get in with.
No, they were not, and the DC scene owes big debt of gratitude to those guys because they didn't take the safe bookings. They brought through people that maybe weren't going to draw that great, but DJs that people needed to hear. They took risks. Bringing Bailey through for the first time. No one knew who the hell Bailey was. Now Bailey's a staple in DC. Bringing through Doc Scott. Um, bringing the artists that are a little bit more left field. They did that. They took a lot of risks, and they deserve a lot of credit for that. They definitely were the first ones to raise the flag. Um, and I met my partner in crime, Jeff Hancock, aka DJ Freefall, the man behind DC Brow, one of the two guys behind DC Brow, and I met him at one of Lonnie's loft parties at Azar Court, and I remember we were all sitting down in the back room, just chilling out, and this guy comes up to us and he's like, "You know what, man? Nothing better than doing some good drugs and playing some records." I just started laughing. And he's and he was like playing at a party called Remedy, which was Thursday's opposite Fever way back when at a club called The Bank in Baltimore. And he was like, "Yeah, I'm playing Remedy. You guys should come out and hear us. Diesel Boys playing." And we were like, "Oh, who is this guy?" And we later on met up at a Too Tough party. It was Too Tough first time Bailey was through the U.S. or not only the U.S. but definitely first time through DC. And it was like, "Hey, chill out. How you doing?" And we found that we bought the same tunes. We were deeply, deeply, deeply into tech step at this point. And Jeff and I got together and formed a little crew called Catalyst DC. Jeff was in another crew called the Step Syndicate. Definitely helped put DC on the map and deserved tons of props. Big ups Harry, big ups Benson, whole crew. Um, and Jeff partnered with them, and then we started doing our Catalyst thing, and that's when it really started to take off. And that was about 95, 96, something like that.
All right.
Um,
Before I'm going to cut you off for a quick second, your mic is breaking a little bit, so check your audio connection for a hot second. And while you do that, I'm going to give a quick shout out to the one like Meta Pattern who just dropped in a sub. Thank you so much, brother, man. It has been 22 months you've been supporting this channel. Crushing it. Thank you so much for all the support. Comically, I was just talking to my wife about moving to the ATL, partly as a joke, but I laughed that if we did, I would have an instant friend down there. So big ups. All right, I hear you laughing, so that's sounding a little bit better. Give me a mic check.
Mic check one.
All right, you're sounding better.
So he's so weird talking about yourself and you're not used to doing it.
So you're talking about that you got the Catalyst started somewhere around 95, 96?
Yeah, about
Okay.
there, right around there. Yeah, 95, 96, 97. Those years all kind of blend together. Um, and we had a weekly at a place called Bar None, which was like a weird strange swingers type bar off of U Street. And back when U Street was a lot different than it is now. And at first, it was a Tuesday weekly. That was back in the days when you had Sunday sessions on Sunday. You had, I forget what on Monday. You had us on Tuesday. Then Thursday you would have something at Club 5. Then you would have Buzz on Friday. And then the Warehouse Rave at the Edge on Saturday. And then Sunday, if you're lucky, you'd have Sunday Mass back at the Paradox. And so we did this couple of years. And brought through on so many cool artists. That's from G, mathematics, if you know them, online. we had a lot of the staff up there making songs. Big ups to all them. A lot of the staff up there would come down and play our little club. We always had Ransom through. Um, a lot of the guys that were real staples in the scene would be playing in and out, every week. It was a really nice place for people to get together and exchange ideas and share about music. And wake up with a hell of a hangover on Wednesday morning. And then,
It sounds epic. And it sounds like the chat's telling me that you're continuing to have mic issues, and I'm catching a little bit of it as well. What's your mic input at the moment?
my mic input is my phone.
Okay.
Um,
I was gonna say maybe if it's sitting like in a cushion or something, lift it up a little bit because it's funny. Like you'll get close enough and it'll be clear, and then all of a sudden you'll go south
well,
on me.
how's it now?
A little muffled.
Any better?
That's a lot better. Chat. Do we agree?
Sorry, guys.
It's all right, man. We're not all used to doing this. I mean, you'd figure by now with how many pandemics we've done. I mean,
Right. No doubt. No
excellent. You
doubt.
sound far more crispy.
Okay, great.
All right. So
Great.
you're noting that at this point, you could have a party every day in DC.
Yep, absolutely.
And this was we're still kicking it in 95, 96? Or,
This period is basically between like 97 to about 2000. Is when we had a weekly practically every day of the week. And that went through to about 2000, and then for some reason there was just a little bit of a tapering off with the scene.
Mhm.
Uh, you know, Crews started to fragment. Things happened. Um,
Actually,
but
I'm gonna pause you for a brief moment because as you're having mic issues, as you're running down all the different events, do you mind refreshing that just so we've got it documented?
sure, the events.
Yeah, yeah. Just like you did a great throwdown for every day of the week, and I would really love to have that actually captured.
Sure. Okay. So Sunday, starting off the week, you'd start off with Sunday sessions. Monday, nothing. Epidemic. Tuesday, Wednesday, question mark. I remember Act Your Age moved to Wednesdays. So that fit in the Wednesdays. Thursday would be a drum and bass party, usually at the M3 spot at Club 5. And then you have Buzz on Friday, and then you'd have your warehouse party on Saturday, and if you were lucky, Sunday Mass on the next Sunday to wrap it all up. Nice tidy bow.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how it used to be. And one thing, I think that really holds true from those days and now is that drum and bass still gets second room status. You don't really find it in the main rooms. When you do, it's usually the same three DJs. Um, and drum and bass, still is fighting to get the credit that it really deserves. Um, and that's definitely still a challenge in a district. So every time there's a drum and bass event that's happened, just know that there's a lot of work going into it, and those people that are doing it deserve a lot of love.
Definitely.
It's not easy.
I mean, it's amazing to hear that DC had such a strong scene, especially on a weekly, basis, and that was before my time. But yet, the echoes of that was making it all the way into the Midwest, where I was partying in Ohio, and so you
Right.
always heard and got the flyers for the parties that were happening. And it's funny how many of them I have. Yeah, I mean, I'm a collector, so the vinyl behind me isn't a tell, but I've got a lot of old flyers too. And I was laughing as I was going through. I didn't realize how many I had. And then, of course, this is the city I moved to.
It's funny how it all works out.
Indeed. So now we've kind of laid the groundwork as to the scene that you were entering into. You've met Free Fall at this point, starting to open up for the Too Tough crew. Catalyst is becoming a thing. Where's what is that next step for you in your journey as you progress through the scene?
Hmm, our I think our natural progression was throwing a lot of events, um, and bringing through some kind of offbeat DJs.
Okay.
Case in point, we were the second guys to bring Marcus Intellects through to DC, and at that point in time, that was a risky booking, and we were like, "No, we support his music. We're going to bring him." We had a lot of firsts. First time Stock on Skynet landed in DC was a party that we had done with in conjunction with the Step Syndicate.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so we really focused on bringing new, fresh talent through that hadn't been through, maybe more than one or two revolutions through DC. So we did a lot of parties, through some really successful events, through some really unsuccessful events too. Um, and then just we were DJing out a lot. Our weekends were filled up. Some nights we were even double booked. And so things were very cool. We worked at a Jeff and I worked at a studio that was a really cool resource for Washington D.C. called Metatrack Studio,
Mm.
and that was an old massage parlor that got busted, and so they had a bunch. Yeah, so they had a bunch of sauna rooms, which were treated, obviously with wood, but they had great vocals. So there were house people coming in and cutting vocals in those booths left and right. They provided DJ teaching and instruction, like so you could teach beat matching, programming, all the finer points of DJing and stuff. They offered that, and they also offered free use of their studio if you worked there. And they had a wonderful Pro Tools setup, and so Jeff and I started, playing around on that kind of equipment at a relatively early age, and that was just a real great resource. I think DC's would be so much more productive if we had another resource like that. I mean, it was a really cool time, and to be involved in the music, a very exciting time to be involved with the music.
With the gear that you're getting access to, I mean, Pro Tools, obviously you're running DAW, but are you also running hardware at that point? So hardware samplers, or is it all sample based in the box?
Box, there's a fair amount of samplers and a lot of outboard gear.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was it was to any music nerd, it was a dream come true, that place. It was just truly a phenomenal resource.
So as you were starting to play, did anything come out of that?
Yeah, just more gigs, I mean, with the visibility of being a teacher there, we picked up, more and more bookings. And we were really lucky. We were getting sorted out with a lot of exclusive bits, and that's why I think we picked up um, quite a few gigs, is because frankly we had tunes that no one else did. Um, and that's always been a thing of drum and bass, is having the freshest stuff, and that was our goal, and I think we were pretty successful in that. Especially Jeff, he's a real dub hunter. A real dub hunter. But yeah, and then let's see from there. Jeff moved away to Ann Arbor, Michigan, to learn how to brew beer. Um, that's now his life's blood, and he's doing very well. Very happy for his success. But he's continued on to be one of DC's best, most technically competent DJs. I'm really fortunate with the people that I'm around, that are my peers, that they're all really good technical DJs, like guys like Stress, another guy I work with, this guy Larry, technical as hell. I mean, the guys I work with are like real surgeons, and it can be intimidating sometimes because they'll be sitting there scratching their beard, being like, "I heard an audible adjustment," you know. So it just makes you strive to be a tighter DJ, hanging around with such a high bar of talent.
Hmm.
And I still feel DC's got some really strong, diverse drum and bass DJs. I think we still have a very strong scene as far as talent's concerned, and definitely with production. There's some guys doing some great stuff in DC right now. Um, Too many to mention, really. But it's I think DC is about to have a resurgence of drum and bass and support of drum and bass. Everyone wants to get out of their house, get back into the clubs, start to live again,
That'd be
and
nice.
that'd be nice, man. You know, for us all to be able to convene and just be like, "Hey, how you doing?" That would be awesome. So I think as pandemic, wraps up, we're going to start to see more club culture reemerge. At least that's my hope.
I think we all dream and hope for that as well. So here's the
Yeah.
question: how would you define your sound? Like, as you know, yeah,
Hmm.
how would you define your sound?
Uh, hmm. Well, deep, deep, minimal, dark, and I like to I like to present a journey with a mix. For me, I like to start at point A and leave you so far from point A at the end that it's like, whoa, how did we get here? Um, so I like to, I hate that he used the term journey DJ, but that's kind of what I set out to do, is to take you on a journey through audio. But definitely deep, moody, dark, minimal. That's definitely my sound.
Too dark, as Andy Too Tough just noted. Whoa, there's also a beard stroke step, and the beard stroke massive has been called out. Gotta love it. That's
You guys,
awesome.
you are.
And I think that it's funny that you talked about taking people on a journey, because I just recently gave some feedback to another DJ that had sent me a mix and asked me like what I thought of it. And my main complaint was that it stayed too much in it, kind of like one level of energy, one layer of excitement, and there wasn't anything beyond that. It was just kind of like bangers as hard as that you can make them. I'm like, all right, but like, what's what's going to be that pause? What's going to give me the chance to walk off the dance floor for a quick second to get a drink that's going to allow four other people that it's their song to jump in on? You
Right,
know,
right. Yeah, I mean, it's all about the versatility, you know. To play just one style is not a good thing. I mean, there's good stuff that's lighter. There's good stuff that's darker. There's good stuff that's dance floor. There's good rollers. There's good rinsers. You got to play it all. I mean, just to stay in a little box and play one kind of sound is confining and just uh, really fucking boring.
yeah,
You know. Um, well, hopefully the mixing was at least good.
yeah.
Yeah. So let's see here. What else? I guess another fast forward. This is a big fast forward about probably 7 or 8 years. I kind of left the scene for a bit. Worked on myself. Had some personal issues. Yada yada yada. Um, Came back to the scene and started doing work with. I had a crew called Drop, and that was originally this guy Joel and this other guy. and an MC Concept, George Burns, and later on, my buddy Carl Krimmelmeyer was involved with it. And Drop, we really took a lot of chances on bringing guys through for the first time, like TC1, who's turned out to be a dear friend of mine. We had him through for the first time through DC, and we just started focusing on bringing through really really good artists. I partnered up with Daniel Slant. We did a series of parties called Jungle Business, and brought through some great artists there. Brought through Randall, Brian G again popping up in the mix. A sides, Ben from the Insiders. Guys who you just typically didn't see on your average club night. We were trying to really bring a diverse sound and to a diverse audience, and I think we hit the mark with that. And then we threw a bunch of other parties. We had Goldie at an optical. Um, just Clute, Trace, Homemade Weapons, just the guys a little bit more off the beaten path that we really were into their music, and so we brought that kind of talent. We wanted to expose people to new sounds and new ideas, which I think is crucial in drum and bass.
Out of all the talent that you brought in, what was the biggest surprise success? There's a face.
Clute,
Flute.
no, we knew Clute would crush it,
Uh-huh.
but did we know that Clute was going to sell out U-Haul? Clute and Trace. They sold out U-Haul, man. It was amazing.
That is amazing.
Amazing. Amazing. Trace drew really well.
Mm.
Uh, we've definitely been pleasantly surprised in many occasions. Um, yeah, and Optical obviously destroyed the place. Goldie obviously destroyed the place. Um, And now we're looking to get back into venues. We're just looking to find a venue that's supportive of the format of drum and bass. And we're having a little bit of a difficult time, but hopefully the right venue will pop up and we'll be able to start resuming doing parties. Currently, I'm in a crew called Tenure
Yeah.
with this guy Larry Thomas, aka Larry Hammer, also from Decima. We've got some records out. We've had some good success on Beatport. He and I have a webcast. It's called 10 Year Presents. It's called the Vibecast. And there, the emphasis is on bringing through um, producers and highlighting their sounds. So we do that one Saturday every month. Next one's coming up this Saturday. We've got Taylor Costill, who is putting out some fire tracks, and from DC and now lives in New Orleans. So we're having him as a guest, and really looking forward to that. So we've got the web thing going on, and also doing some production with Larry on like hardware bits, and then doing this side thing. We don't have a name for it yet, but we're definitely working a lot with DJ Stress, and where we're going to be experimenting and exploring more atmospheric sounds.
Okay.
So it's kind of cool. I get to get my yayas out with the harder stuff with Larry, and then the more musical stuff with Rich. So I'm just blessed to have these musicians around me. They're just they keep me going.
And that's Larry. Sorry, I'm trying to catch all this stuff.
Sure, Larry Thomas is his real name. He goes on Facebook by Larry Hammer.
Excellent.
Infamous dude.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's pretty much what we're up to nowadays. Or what I'm up to nowadays is working between those two things, and then obviously trying to juggle that with my professional career. Um, And that's pretty much where I'm at right now.
That's excellent. So to the chat, I threw in the link for 10 Year Presents. Make sure that you go give them a like and a follow. I'm
Thank you.
all about trying to promote, especially here in the area, but anyone that's out here trying to make good sound, especially if we get to focus on a little drum and bass, hey, why not? It's
Why not?
a love close to my heart.
You and me both, bro.
And also, shouts out to Burner. Thank you for the support, and Andy too, Tough, for doubling down on that. Thank you so much, mate, with
Easy,
that new
big A.
sub. All right, so we've talked about what you're doing now. Obviously, we're trying to still find venues. Venues
Yeah,
will be found, and I hope that once restrictions kind of ease up or people feel comfortable coming back out, that'll be an easier sell to people.
yeah,
We've
yeah. I hope
talked
so.
about the past, but it's like, so you just, from the way it started, it was you're a fan of the music, you're a fan of drumming, you found the music, but then you jumped into opening for it was with Too Tough. There's some grace matter in there. Like, when was the first time you actually touched decks? Like, how
Uh,
did that all shape through and come out?
Probably, I would say 94, 95.
Okay.
I was a terrible technician until I met Jeff. And Jeff really showed me how to pitch ride and taught me a lot about programming. I learned a lot from also watching Rich, from watching Mr. Sidey. He was one of the most technically proficient DJs I knew, so I would watch him and just kind of pick up pointers here and there, and then I'd take it home and try and recreate what I just saw in the nightclub, and I used that. I still have that same kind of reckless abandon with learning the turntables because I would come home from work or from whatever I was doing that day, go downstairs and mix for a good, solid 2, 3 hours every day. It day in, day out. Time to make the donuts, and that just became my life. And after you do something long enough, you start to pick it up. Otherwise, it might not just be for you. Um, and Yeah, and then next thing you know, I'm giving tapes to Andy. He's laughing at me and probably throwing them out the car door.
So it was
But
just said you gave him a tape called "It's a Beautiful Day."
I, I did. It's a beautiful day. Oh my God. Oh no. My past is coming to haunt me. I knew this would happen.
Oh,
Um,
we're getting called out. Evidently, it was a lot of good-looking records.
yep, it was an atmospheric mix. Yep, yep. I always really leaned towards the atmospheric stuff when I first started DJing. Was heavily influenced by LTJ Bookham, locally heavily influenced by Slant. I remember going to Jungle Fever, and Diesel Boy played like a jump up, hard steppy kind of set, and then right after that was Slant, and Slant played just really intelligent drum and bass, and I was so blown away by that. It was like, whoa, I really connect to this stuff. This stuff is pretty heady music, and that really got me into like the GLR stuff. And then I, like I said, discovered Bookham, Blame, Blue Martin, all those guys, and that's what I was buying was the atmospheric stuff, and it's going to make a comeback. I think. I think that there's a want for that style of music because we're all up there now, and it's
Hmm.
it's degrading.
So with atmospheric, I always kind of quietly clumped atmospheric and intelligent together. And I know intelligent can be a bit of a polarizing term, but it was the term I used back in the day and what we had access to. And I think you're right. I think that there is a little bit more of a strive and a push for that. As I'm reading the tea leaves for what's coming out. Um, I could totally see that.
Yeah, yeah. It's my
Because
hope.
in your production work that you're doing now with stress and for yourself, is that where you're putting your energy and focus in?
Yeah, that and, like deep, good minimal rollers, that kind of stuff. I'm a big fan of the murky street beats, like a la the kind of stuff you hear Doc Scott playing that's just so murky and muddy. I love that stuff too. So, excuse me, those two styles of music are primarily what I'm working on: the murky lurkers and the stuff that's nice and pretty.
It's
And
a
not like
solid yin and yang there. I mean, you tick both the
very much,
boxes.
yeah, it's very polarizing. So hopefully, in the next few years, we'll write something that we're happy with, and I'll be, handing you over a tune.
And what are you producing, or yeah, what are you doing your production in?
Ableton.
Okay.
Yeah, Ableton. Yep. Yep.
Uh,
Ableton and Mac.
Now, while we're in the current time zone, what is in your crate whenever you're buying? Whether or not that's buying MP3s or vinyl or whatnot, however you get your music, what are the producers that you're looking for and the labels that you're digging under?
Okay. 31 for labels. Artists, if I hear HLZ, um, if it's a Wings track, I'm probably going to end up buying it. If it's something off of Dispatch, chances are I'm going to be into it. Love DLR. Let's see. I really like the stuff on Guidance Recordings. I think they're really deep and still, like dance floor friendly. Let's see here. Anything on Flex Out is probably going to end up in my bag. Anything from Overview is going to end up in my bag. Stuff from Skylark, I really like. Quartz, I think, is absolutely killing it. Zero T, D Mines, who I think put out the track of the year last year with Give In to Me on 31 recordings. Just a gorgeous, lush vocal tune. And everything D Minds puts out is just flame. Um, yeah, those are the guys that I pretty much that I'm looking at right now. That are usually must buys for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, digging back, you've are now you know at the mole, and you're standing at the mountain. You've got the technicians that are giving you guidance, calling you when they can hear your fingerprints on the records. Technology's about to have a bit of a change as we go into the aughts, and all of a sudden CDs come out. How is that transition? Like going
uh,
from vinyl to CDs?
Abysmal, truly abysmal. I could not mix to save my life on CDJs. So my good buddy Larry really broke it down simply for me. He said, "Look, what you're doing is you're pitch riding because when you're playing on vinyl, you pitch ride the whole time."
Hmm.
He was like, "Cut it out. Set it at your BPM, make sure they match, and drop it on the one. Do not touch that pitch. Drop it on the one and then adjust with the jog wheel and you'll be fine." And I was like, "Really?" And so I listened to him and I was like, "All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4. Drop. Oh, they're lined up perfectly. Oh, I can walk away from the CDJs and get a water and come back and it's still mixed fine. Oh, really? That's how it's done." And ever since then, it's just been really, I mean, pretty much a piece of cake. Not to be cocky, but I heard a saying that I think sums it up pretty well. That DJing, CDJing is a skill, and DJing with vinyl is an art. I think that sums it up.
Yeah, I was gonna say that nails it. I actually had a aha moment just recently. Debbie and John say best advice ever. Um, but I just had a aha moment the other day. I was listening to Mojax on YouTube talk about fake turntables that are being made out there, where they're like kind of like Franken tables. Um, and they were talking about how the MG5 was the first turntable that had a Technics release that wasn't an analog pitch shifter. It's actually digital. They could
Okay.
go do like 12 or plus 8 plus 12 plus, however fast you want it to go. And TDJs have had that for years.
Yep.
And they were describing how the digital fader works instead of an analog fader, where an analog fader you can have that gray zone where riding the fader is kind of a necessary thing.
Right.
Where with the digital one, it's very much like you have very precise points that it can
Hmm.
be on, and you got to sit in there.
Hmm.
And I think that's the reason why when I ever touched like CDJs, I never had that sweet advice. And so I would just sit there and try to ride it and be like, why is this such a mess? I'm like, I understand why the sync button is a thing. Like, and I came to it way late. Like I came after the sync button had happened. So I missed the whole MK1000s version 1. Just didn't even touch them. Still haven't yet.
Yeah. 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 They're awful.
So you're now smoking and moving in with the CDJs. Life is good. Getting double booked. Have you? I'm assuming that your reach also came outside of the Beltway. So where did you go?
Boy, let's see here. Not really that many places. Texas, San Francisco, Atlanta, New York. Um, Shout outs to Jason Kennedy for booking us in Philly so many times. Um, and then, Baltimore, DC. We were Eastern Seaboard kind of guys. Uh, Never made it to Boston, unfortunately. Always wanted to scratch that one off my list. But yeah, those were pretty much it. I mean, we were pretty much DC and Baltimore bound. I mean, that's where we made our bread and butter. That's where our booking requests came from. So a lot of DC and Baltimore, a lot of, okay, we're playing at the Edge again on Saturday. A lot of that.
So now that we've got you in here, and we've got you in here without Jeff. We've separated you two out. What was the best part about working with Jeff?
Oh, you know, it, best thing working about with him, not I mean, besides the friendship and the camaraderie, um, was that musically we could finish each other's thoughts. If I played a record, he would play a record that would build off the next one, and so on and so forth. And it was constantly like, building layers, like putting a lasagna together. And we just had this uncanny synergy. And that's why we always decided to play together once we hooked up as Catalyst DC. Very, very rarely did we play separate sets because I loved the feeling of, remembering I came from a kind of a traditional music background. I love the feeling of jamming with another musician and feeling that energy and then the transfer of energy back and forth and all that. That's a really cool feeling. And Jeff and I just had this great chemistry that, like, oh, okay, he's playing this. All right, that seems to be like he's gonna hear this one next. And then we play and he'd be like, oh yeah, that's what I was gonna play, man. And then it would, just go on from there. And I've only found, that kind of chemistry with two other people, and that's Larry and Rich, where I've found that I've have this just chemistry where we really work and build off each other. And that was the greatest part about working with Jeff, was just that we saw eye to eye musically, and and we would play what the other one was thinking in their heads, and it just worked out brilliantly with us. And yeah, um, and now working with the other guys, is very cool, and it's nice to find some people that I connect with as well on a musical level, because that's where it's at, homie.
That's an awesome, and it's awesome that you were able to find that connection. I've only found it with a handful of people as well, and that's really a blessing.
It's rare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now that you've told us all the good things, roast him. No. What's one bad thing? What was one thing where you're like, mm-hmm, yeah, no. Don't worry, he'll get his own turn, as I say. Because I admittedly, when I saw you guys on flyers, I actually thought Catalyst was the name of the group for the long time, not
Right.
necessarily the name of the crew. And so I just clumped you two together as Catalyst,
Mhm.
not as individuals as Matt Rogers and Freefall. So
That was kind of intentional because we were sort of absolving ourselves from our individual DJ names and making it a single entity. So we kind of designed it to be that way. Like, who's playing Catalyst? What's their individual name? Who cares? They're Catalyst. Um, man, I've got a lot of bad stories, and I could tell you shit if I wanted to. But
you keep it light.
I'm that for another day. I love everyone, and everyone has been great along the way.
Fair enough. So you took off a chunk of time.
Yeah,
Was that during what I don't know? I'm roughly coining it the drum and bass recession. Like
it
drum and bass
was.
kind of died in DC for a hot second, and there wasn't gigs to be found anywhere. Like
No, it really
Tough would
dried
throw a
up.
couple parties here and there, but it would just kind of fizzled out. Was that in the time period that you stepped away, or was that right at the beginning?
Yeah, that was around the time when I stepped away. I got a little disillusioned with things, and needed to take some time to get my head sorted out, get it straight, and then I just kind of, I hate to say it, but for the first time ever, sort of became uninspired with the music. Everything was going the way of neurofunk. I'm not a big fan of the style. If that's what you play, God bless you, keep doing it. Big ups, but that really turned me off when I heard everything was like, sounding like robots and or sped up dubstep. Um, that's when I said, this isn't for me right now. And I took a little break and then came back, and my first tune that I purchased was a Caliber tune.
Quality.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Love Caliber. Love Caliber.
No,
Uh,
it's interesting that you say that it all sounded like robots because it's true. It was in that
yeah.
was just before dubstep really kind of slammed into the U.S.
Yep.
And then when it did, even when it did, it was still hard to book drum and bass. Eventually, they got smart and started, diversity and it floated all boats. But
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
was a bit there that, yeah, uninspired is a good way to put it.
Yeah. A lot of it just sounded very samey, and just a lot of it sounded just like noise to me, and I didn't feel that. I've always liked the stuff that moves, that's driving, that's got that makes you want to shake it up on the dance floor. I mean, that's the kind of drum and bass I like, not just real rigid. That kind of stuff is just not for me.
I
Not
know.
for me. But to each his own. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
to each his own. But yeah, so now it's about hopefully having some output and putting out some deeper tunes, and hopefully you'll see with me and some of my side projects, that we'll be putting out some different sounding drum and bass, and that's really how you add to the landscape, I feel, is by creating new sounds. um, that's really where my head's at right now.
And you're creating these new sounds, and you've got this 10-year project. more to the 10-year project as to like where it's already gone and where you're looking to push that in the future.
Sure. 10 years, kind of a loosely knit crew. You've got Larry, of course. You've got Sphere, who from Resonate. He's one of our residents. Jeff Freefall's one of our residents, and excuse me, and the Root Operator boys. Um, yeah, those nutters, and so we're just doing the web thing for now. We're trying to look for venues to do events, but those guys are also all very, very deep into production, and a lot of them are going to be putting out a lot of really good stuff over the next year. So it's going to be an exciting time. You're going to see more of tenure definitely over the next 12 months for sure.
Sweet. And what in particular are you doing with the Twitch platform for tenure?
Sure. That's just a place for heads to come and hang out, and listen to some like 4 to 5 hours of drum and bass once a Sunday. I mean, excuse me, one Saturday every month.
So is it
Uh,
easy to listen, or you're actually DJing it all out?
Oh, we're DJing it all out live.
Okay, cool,
Mm, Yep,
excellent.
yep, it's live. And our first show went really well. We had a little over 200 viewers on our first one.
Wow,
Uh,
good on you.
yeah, we had a beast of it of a producer, Evan Killjoy,
Uh-huh.
uh, who lives in DC, and he's part of Function Recordings UK. He was also half of Concord Dawn, if you remember them, with
Yeah,
their seminal tune "Morning Light." And he's just a beast of a producer, and he played our first show for us very kindly, and brought a really nice, sizable crowd along too.
that
So,
is
we
a
are,
very sizable crowd.
yeah. So we gained a fair amount of traction coming right out of the gate, and we're just hoping that we can maintain that momentum, or at
Nice,
least close to it, and get the sound out to as many people as that are willing to listen. And hopefully some people like it.
definitely. So you said that the next one's coming up this Sunday,
Oh, that's Saturday. Yep.
Saturday, Saturday. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, my bad. I was wondering through Sunday out there.
All right, cool. Well, I'm glad not just me getting it wrong.
Oh no, yeah. I hope you tune in.
Yeah, of course.
It's gonna be a good show.
Now, we talked a little bit about this previous, but when you're prepping for a show, an event,
Hmm.
and we talked about the DJs, most of us are introverts, the way it is, get
Yes,
that
sir.
buildup of anxiety. How do you
Hmm.
handle it?
Well, it's funny. I've been plagued with anxiety my entire life. I used to be heavily medicated for anxiety, and luckily now I'm not. Um, Anxiety's tough. Um, it really comes down to not to be cheesy, but the way that I deal with anxiety when I've got to deal with it on the spot is diaphragmatic breathing, getting breath into your chambers here, and then letting it out very slowly. That just calms the body down. Um, that's one of the things my shrink taught me was diaphragmatic breathing. I used that technique, and a lot of deep breathing to keep the anxiety at bay. Um, and luckily, I've really been able to decrease the amount of anxiety medication I have to take on a daily basis, um, which is I'm very thrilled about. But the anxiety's always been there. Every gig I've ever done, I've had anxiety, no doubt about it. No doubt. Trembling hands at every show.
I just assumed that was a rite of passage for DJs.
Yeah, no. As my one friend calls him, he's like, "Oh, you're getting jazz hands again," and I'm like, "Oh, shut up! Stop looking at my hands." But But yeah, I mean, I still get the nerves. You know, playing to one person or playing to 300, I still get nerves. I think that's just part of the whole thing. And when you don't get nerves, you're probably dead.
Yeah,
You
probably. I mean, it's
know?
also a certain amount of respect for the crowd because it's a craft thing. You know that you're here to perform. You know that there's some weight to it,
Yeah, there is.
and
It is a tremendous responsibility, you know?
mhm.
I mean, you're to set the tone of that building, you know, and you're the soundtrack to those people's evening. And it's up to you to give them a damn good time, you know?
You're there to give them a soundtrack that's going to change their life because that's what every party
Absolutely.
could do. Any party could do that, and so yeah.
Given party could do that. Absolutely. That's the beauty about this, you know, is that at any moment someone could be turned on and their life could be totally changed, you know,
Totally.
and you know, it's shown, you know, when kids are involved in music, they test higher at school, they live happier lives. And I think every kid should be encouraged to play an instrument or be involved in some sort of musical endeavor because it's just such a joyous thing to do, you know?
Hmm.
Life loses its richness without music.
Very true.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm trying to raise a little musician right now, and the hardest part is keeping
Ah.
her focused on what she wants to play, and I'm partly to blame for her ADD with it. Like the other day, I my wife is amazing. She bought me a cajon, but she did it in the best roundabout way. She bought me a kit, told me to go build my own cajon. So it's a big old box drum, and so I got to build it out. And my daughter's been a part of it as I put it together. And then the other day, I was outside and I left it on the back porch, and all of a sudden, I hear like someone playing. I'm like, "Who's playing my cajon?" Come around the corner, she's just banging away at it. I'm like, "Yep, all
That's
right."
great.
I'm just gonna quietly step away and just let her keep going. Like, no pressure. Have fun, kid.
That's, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That beats beating your pots and pans, man, you know?
I mean, if Jeff Grohl can sit around and learn how to play the drums with a bunch of pillows, then my daughter can beat up on a box all day long. It's all good.
That's cool, man. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's awesome.
So, did you ever keep up playing the live drums, or did those go by the wayside when DJing happened?
Nope, I've got a beautiful Tama Babinga Star Classics set sitting right down in my basement.
Beautiful.
Yep. I don't play that much these days because I don't have the time. My career is very, very, very demanding. I work real early hours, and when I come home, I'm usually pretty spent. Um, but when I get the chance, I sit down and still lay out some licks. It's just as fun as it was when I was a kid. You get that feeling of being like that age again. You know what I mean? That's just such a cool thing. You know, music's very powerful. One of the few things that can take you back to feeling like a kid. You know, and that's music. You know, yeah. But yeah, I still play.
That's awesome.
Definitely. Yeah.
Stress called out. I think it was back when we were still talking about the euphoria of a night. That it can be that way until someone lifts a needle off a record while it's playing. True story.
Okay. Right. Right. So I'll change the names to protect the guilty. Okay, so we're playing at the 9:30 back bar. We're playing back to back. Set's going really well. We've got like a nice little crowd totally jammed into the venue. Um and people are rocking out and they're starting to get a little rowdy. And Rich and I were like, "Whoa, they're making their way like they're starting to infringe on the decks and like people are starting to get pushy like or what the hell's going on here?" And this girl was drunker than drunk. And we were playing a tune and I remember which one it was. It was um uh, that break tune, cause baby, you slow down. And as soon as slow down drops, this girl walks right up to the decks and pulls the needle right off the record. There's just radio silence in there. You just hear this. And we're staring, like, did you really do that? And my buddy Carl, who was the one who booked the gig, was like, you can either get out or I'm having security take you out. You've got one of two ways to deal with this. And the chick was like, kind of like, well, I'm gonna stay in here. And sure enough, 3 minutes later, 9:30 security, you're taking her out. Yeah, yeah. People,
Damn.
yeah, people used to like to get rowdy at our gigs. What can you say, man? I mean, yeah, yeah, that definitely happened. Rich and I still to this day joke about it. And that gig had to have been easily a decade ago. Well, it was just so weird.
Wow.
Yeah, pulled the needle right off the record. Yeah.
And man, and that back bar too, man. That it's such a tight little shotgun venue. Like it's
Hmm.
intimate. Like the idea of like it going to radio from like heavy bass to radio silence, that would be all heads turning.
Yes, every head turned. Absolutely. Yeah, so there's always some sort of, silly nonsense that happened at the gigs. It's why it's too hard to remember all the stories, I mean, because there's a lot more like that where they came from. But yeah, that was an eventful gig, man, for sure.
Right on.
Mm, yeah. Yes, sir.
So now here's a question: where's besides tenure and besides your production end, are you hoping to get back into more of a DJ groove, playing out as things
Yes.
open back up?
Yes. As of right now, it seems to be like the thing is, everyone's doing a webcast or a live stream. But as soon as clubs start opening back up again, as soon as they're willing to take a chance on drum and bass, we'll be in there and we'll be doing stuff. Definitely, about it, no doubt about it. Yeah, there's enough talent in the crew that we could basically book a party with just the residents, and it would probably do okay, you know. So it's like, why not build, something off this? We're just waiting for the right clubs. Recently there was a DJ that toured the United States who usually comes to DC, and I know myself and a few other crews tried to book this individual DJ, and no one could find a club that was willing to take drum and bass. And this guy was a don, a pioneer, someone that needs no explaining, and I mean a household name DJ. And we couldn't find a venue to host it. So
Part of that, I mean, I we lost a lot of venues, but still, that's sad. That
it is.
we've gone from like being able to have a drum and bass party once a week to not being able to host a dawn in this space.
Yep. Yep. And this tour should have come through DC. It should have been an immediate booking. It should have been one of the first places that this tour was coming through, and no one was able to make it happen. And that's just frustrating as hell. So we're gonna keep knocking on doors, and hopefully, one will eventually open. But it's kind of back to the old drawing board as far as the events are concerned. But once we find the right formula, we'll be doing stuff again. You can bet your bottom dollar on that.
Is it almost time to go back to the warehouse days and finding
Yes,
private venues?
yes. In my opinion, absolutely. It's going to go back to good old illegal raves.
Justin and I were talking about this, and I think one of the hard aspects of it now is that everyone's got mobile phones. Everyone's got that smart, everyone's
Uh-huh.
still connected, and so it's harder to get off the grid.
Oh yeah, it's no longer like meet the guy at the Shell station, go up to him and say wubba wubba, and he's going to put you to a guy that's in a phone booth, and then they're going to point you to the bus that's going to take you to the location while you're blindfolded, and and have fun at the party.
Yeah, and you're gonna trust those people to blindfold you too, and you're gonna be excited about it. You're gonna hand over the $5 for them to put a blindfold on you and to jump in the van. You know?
That's $15 if it's a Live Nation
Oh,
event.
there you go.
But
Again, Midwest. I prices were a little cheaper.
oh yeah, for sure. I'm from the West too. I'm a Chicago boy.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, yeah.
I got all the trickle down from Chicago and Detroit. It all just ended up in Ohio, so I'm a weird meld of like Chicago house and Detroit techno.
Right on. Could be worse,
And it
for
was,
sure.
which
Yeah.
because of that was when I became the jungle head. I then became the resident jungle DJ because everyone wanted diversity on their lineups. Imagine that.
Right. Imagine that, right? Diversity. What?
What? There's gonna be techno and house and jungle all at the same party? No, no.
Oh my. Oh.
But mind you, we're also playing on the only sound system because to have two rooms, oof, man, that was some big dollars. And then jungle would be in the kitchen.
Exactly, right?
And
And Jungle will be
it wasn't a Master Flash moment either. It wasn't anything beautiful like that. It was we were just in the kitchen in a YMCA.
Yeah, man, that desperate times call for desperate measures, and that's very well where we may be at when all is said and done with this. You know, who knows? I know that people want to go out and want to go back to events. You know, the need is definitely there. Um, will people be willing and ready to go back to events? I don't know, but I think that there's a definite, you know, a definite blackout in that area, and people want that back in their lives. So I think that it's when you find the right club, the right DJ, you're going to have very successful nights because people really want to go out. So I
I
think
mean,
you're going to.
it's been 2 years that we haven't had Goldie and DJ Hype come through now. Because I always mark it. It's usually either around my birthday or it's around my wedding anniversary. One of the two is when they seem to cycle through. I haven't got my fix in yet.
Nope, no, no, nope, nope, nope.
Nope.
I hear you. I hear you. So hopefully better days are ahead of us, man. You know?
Indeed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Looking at the crew that's out there now, do you been keeping tabs on the up and comer young starts? Is
Oh
there
yeah.
anyone that we need to be paying attention to?
Hmm. That's a good question. I haven't caught up with this year's sophomore class. Um, if you hear from me, it's going to be the same people that I've always jocked. Look out for Stress, look out for Larry, look out for um, this dude Killjoy. You're going to see a lot of big things from him. He's not new by any stretch of the imagination, but you're going to definitely see a lot of really good things from him. I think keep your eye on Maxwell Houston and the Ornette Hawkins project and the Root Operator project. I think keep your eyes firmly peeled there. And then also, Spear, Ravi, aka Ravi from from Resonate, that guy will spend, hours and hours on just tweaking his snare to get it right. He's a real perfectionist, and I think you're going to hear some really good stuff from him coming up this year.
Sweet. Actually, on
Yeah.
that thought, with that lineup, who should be next in the hot seat? I mean, we've kind of got May booked up, but after that, who do you want to see in here?
Let's see here. I would recommend Freefall, that guy Larry that I've mentioned, and I think MC Concept has got a really good grasp on a lot of this stuff because he was, pretty much the MC du jour between him and Tony Mecca back in the day and still now. Um, they were the MCs at every party, so he's seen it all go down. He's been there for all of it. I think he'd be a great guest. Another guy off the beaten path, but started off as a drum and bass DJ, Dan Soda. Dan's seen it all. He's been there for everything. I think Dan's got so much insight and would be such an entertaining interview.
I
You
didn't
wouldn't have
realize that he
to.
was a drum and bass DJ.
Yeah, he started off as a drum and bass DJ. Yep, yep.
Alrighty.
And he's a damn good DJ at anything he plays, and he's really, really insightful and has some really, really cool stories. So, yeah, those guys, I would suggest. I think would all be wonderful guests on your show, man.
Cool. And MC Concept, he was a part of Synthetic, if I
He
remember.
was synthetics, and right now he's writing tunes with this guy Max Trone. Was from a crew way back when called Parametrics, and the two of them are working in the studio together. Um, and Concept's just a great MC. He does the rhythm and culture stuff with Tom B and Kim Lazy. He's pretty much on every one of their shows that feature drum and bass. Um, so you probably are familiar with him if you've tuned into the Tom B's rhythm and culture show.
Hell yeah.
Uh, yeah, yeah. But he's definitely got a lot of great things to say. Some very, very insightful stuff. Um, let's see here. Yeah, those are about the dudes that I would recommend for sure.
Alrighty. Those are all solid candidates for sure.
Yeah, right on, right on. Yeah, there's a lot of solid people out there, man. You know.
And that's part of the reason why I'm running this down. A, because this is a great way to network, but it's also like just in like I don't have parametrics on my like crazy list, and you've seen my list. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous now. I think we're almost up to 25 to almost 30 crews at this point over the
Wow,
years. And I know
wow,
I'm missing people, and even if they're like short-lived like chemical fires that
right.
happened as like people got together for a party, I still want it documented in there somewhere because at
Chemical.
some point in time, I mean, I've told you about my dream of making this whole series into a coffee table book, but like at one point in time, I was thinking about making it a interactive map where you could click on like a node and it would have Matt Rogers and every party that you've ever been associated with. It would just go bloop and pull out, and then you could pull like go to that party and pull in all the DJs that have been in, like a part of that crew. When I'm an interactive designer, this is the way I think, and
Right.
so I was just like, oh man, that would be so like the database behind that would be so sick. And so then as I started putting this together, at first I was like, is there enough of that information? And I think if we get enough stories in, like from you and from everyone else, we could probably put it all together. But at the moment, I feel like I'm trying to map down a serial killer. I've got little bits of yarn and dry erase boards and photos, and just like, oh, figure this drum and bass thing out.
Tracking Ted Bundy here.
Serious. And it all goes back to one crew.
Yeah. funny. It sort of does.
Oh, that's excellent. Well, do you have anything else to add before we like? We could.
I've worn out my welcome. I feel talking about myself and running in circles. So thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me discuss some of our projects, and thanks for supporting drum and bass in DC. And yeah, just keep doing what you're doing, man. It's a really cool thing, bro.
And we'll keep on doing it. No, don't you worry.
Wicked man, wicked man, and to all my friends that tuned in, both you guys, thank you very much.
No worries. Is there anyone else you want to give a shout out while you still got the mic?
Ugh, shout out to Larry, shout out to Rich, shout out to Doug, shout out to Carl. Anyone that I forgot, I'm sorry. Shout outs to Andy. How you doing, big fella? And just big up everyone out there doing something for drum and bass. Everyone's important. Everyone's needed to make this happen.
Cool. Thank you so much. And
Dude,
I'll circle back with you tomorrow, and we'll catch up.
sounds great, man. Thanks for having me on.
No worries, man. Thank you so much for coming through.
Of course, brother. Thank you. Have a great night.
Will do, man. Keep smiling.
Thanks. You too, bro. Peace.
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 All right, famo. Let's go do this. Let's play some music. It's been think there we go. Let's play a little bit of music. Let's have some fun. Thank you all so much for hanging out, bringing the proper questions, and enjoying that throwdown from Matt Rogers. I know I've learned a bunch, and I hope you did too. And if you guys have people that you want to see get thrown into the hot seat, man, throw it up in the chat. Let me know. All right. In the meantime, let's play some music.